And you might have watched my other show a minute ago, but I'm watching it back. The volume was basically, you can hear me. So I've decided to scrap that show and do another one, so you can catch this one later. I don't think many people watched it live anyway, but you'll be able to catch this one again after, and you might actually be able to hear me this time. So okay, so stress is not the enemy. Your reaction to it is what causes stress. Okay, now before I go into that, I just want to again mention that I've got a free resource available now on my website called 3 Steps to Turning Obstacles into Stepping Stones. Okay, and if you're interested in claiming that resource, just get over to my website and you can claim that now. It's for free and you can sign up. I'm also available now for one-to-one coaching, which are helping people do things like I'm going to talk about tonight. Anyway, so stress, and we've all heard people say this before, stress is caused by, you think it's caused by something else. So we say things like stress, COVID's stressing me out, work is stressing me out, my relationship is stressing me out, things like that. So, but the reality is, stress is actually created by what we subconsciously believe about a situation rather than what is actually going on in that situation. That is why some people don't get stressed out about situations, whereas others get very stressed out about situations. You become anxious, tense, all of these things. Some people get excited about stressful situations rather than nervous or whatever. And that's because we all tell ourselves things differently and create different types of beliefs, subconscious beliefs, which then fuel how we feel about ourselves. Okay, so there's basically 6 core areas which we all have. Every human being on the planet has these 6 core areas: spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, social, environmental. Now, if one of those areas is not performing at a certain level optimally, and something is happening in those areas which is draining our energy, then what happens is we create a belief around that. It could be an assumption, an interpretation, whatever it is. We create something in our minds which then creates stress, which then creates anxiety or tension or things like that. So those it's basically those 6 areas that influence us in any given situation. And I'll give you an example for all 6 of them. So spiritual, for instance. Well, now, I'm not talking about God and things like that when I say spiritual. I'm talking about our values, our purposes in life, our goals, our connections in life, our beliefs. And if something is not fulfilling us in those areas, what happens is the energy in that area will fall. We'll start creating a belief around that situation, interpretation and assumption, which then creates our stress. So it comes back to what we just said. We create our own stress. It's our reaction to things that happen to us that create stress. Okay, mentally, for instance, it could be we're multitasking at work and it's just too much to deal with, and therefore we create a belief about that, and that then creates the stress. It could be that we've got too many demands on us. We're taking on too much. Things bore you. It could be at work. You've been bored. That leads to stress, or because it creates a belief which leads to stress. Or it could be something that's too challenging. Like for me, with technology, this is one of my things mentally. If before I approach anything that's got anything to do with technology, I create a belief before that. I'm aware I do it, but it still happens. But what I'm able to do now is overcome that because I know how to. But I create a belief like I don't want to do this because I'm no good at it. So that automatically creates a belief which is fueling my stress. But if I'm able, when I'm aware of that, I then can stop myself doing that and say, you know what? I'm going to learn something here. I'm going to grow from this situation, and therefore I start feeling better about the situation and less stressed about it. You see? So that's how you remove stress. We become aware of the belief that we're creating around that, and then you can change that to something that's actually much more serving of you by consciously choosing something that's going to work for you rather than not. Okay? Emotionally, you could be in a relationship and your needs and desires are not being met. So again, we create a belief around that, telling yourself that it's something you're doing. You're overweight, you're ugly, or whatever it is. That creates stress. Physically, you could be physically not feeling great. I get this as well. I have arthritis, and if my hands are not feeling good that day, before I approach anything, for instance, writing, I do a lot of writing, I'll tell myself subconsciously again, and it's oh no, you're not going to be able to write today because your hands are hurting, you know. But then you can bring yourself back to that awareness and do things which are going to help you feel better about yourself, and therefore create a much more positive mindset to then get what you want done. So again, it all comes down to being conscious about what you're telling yourself in there. Socially, your social environment might not be serving you. Environmentally, you might be in a situation where you're boxed in an office and you don't really feel comfortable. That will then create a belief, which you then will create stress and anxiety and things like that. So again, how do we overcome stress and anxiety? And again, I hear a lot of people say this all the time. Things like, I'm overthinking a situation, I can't get to sleep because I'm thinking too much about whatever it is. And the more you do that, the more you create stress, the more you start getting worse, basically, because what you're doing is you're allowing your subconscious mind to feed you more and more of what you're already getting. So you believe all of those judgments, beliefs, limiting beliefs, I should say, fears, assumptions, interpretations that come from the subconscious mind are creating a narrative for you, and that narrative is feeding into what you don't want. So everything that's coming through your mind is fed through that narrative. And it's only when you bring yourself back into the conscious moment that you're able to get rid of that narrative and change it to something that's actually much more serving for you. Do you see? So you can actually say, you know what, I don't want to think that, I don't want to feel that, so therefore what do I want to feel? What perspective will make me feel the way I want to feel? And then you can change that perspective to something that's actually much more constructive. So coming back to those 6 core areas, when you realise, or firstly you've got to know what they are. When you know what they are, you can identify what area that stress is being created from. So for instance, if you're feeling stressed emotionally, let's say, you can recognise that, hang on, I feel physically good, my social environment's good, environmentally I'm fine, spiritually I feel good, my values are big, but hang on, emotionally I'm not feeling that great at the moment. Then you can recognise that, so you can identify what area is not working for you. Then you can work out what you have to do to change that situation so that it works for you, so that you're doing something that's much more constructive and productive to where you want to be, and removing that belief that's behind the stress in the first place and replacing it with something that's much more serving of you. So identifying that first is key. Then being able to consciously consider what you're telling yourself to create the stress in the first place. And when you recognize what you're consciously telling yourself, subconsciously telling yourself, you can change it. You can change it to something else that's going to create feelings of happiness and joy and things like that, instead of anxiety and stress and all of these horrible things that we don't want. So, you can recognize what you're missing. What is it you need? What do you need to do? And when you understand that, when you look at these 6 core areas and you say, well, some of them are doing all right, but the others are not, and so on, you can work out a step-by-step plan. Because sometimes it might be not as easy as just changing your thinking. There might be an actual real issue going on that you need to address. But you can change your thoughts around that too. And you can create a step-by-step plan to work through any situations in order to optimize all of those 6 areas, so that any given time in your life, no matter what's going on, no matter what the circumstances are, whether they're stressful, difficult, hard, whatever it is, you can be at your best at any given situation. So you're not the victim of any circumstance, because you create your own views and beliefs and everything else like that. So you have the power to create that at any given time. So if you want to stop feeling stressed or anxious, get in your head and work out where that's coming from for a start, and then change it. So again, working that step-by-step plan helps you increase your energy in any given moment, and therefore you can create you're constantly creating good feelings, feeling good all the time. So energy increases in every area, basically. So, and when you do that, You're in control of your mind. You're not allowing your subconscious to live your life for you and dictate for you. And, all of those horrible feelings we don't want to feel, like stress, anxiety, and all of those things. You're not the victim of that. So we create that. I work with people one-to-one, exactly doing this. I help you firstly recognise which areas of your life are not fulfilling you, and then we work together to create a plan, step-by-step plan, to create a situation where all of those 6 areas I've talked about are working for you at any given time. And if you're interested in really finding out how to do this, and I mean consistently, then that's what I'm here for. So get in touch with me today, leave me a message on my website, get in touch with me on Facebook, whatever is best for you, and I will be in touch with you and we can have a chat about how I can help you do this. Because there's no reason why you should spend your life stressed, anxious, and at the victim of your subconscious mind and beliefs. So I hope this has helped some people tonight. I know it's my second go at it. Anyone who missed the early one, the sound was awful. I'm hoping this one's better. And I will speak to you all next week. And like I said, check out my free resource because it's really, really cool. See you all next week. Have a good week. Bye-bye.